In this installment, we're going to be breaking down DraftKings Week 8 slate. Let's get into it. Hey, yo! Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef D, and I'm here to give you the winning ingredients for your Week 8 DraftKings Showdown slate. We got 11 crazy games going on, and I'm going to give you the stacks and the top values of Week 8. But before I deep dive into that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetsJetsD. Don't forget about the TikTok at Chef_D91. And don't forget about the Patreon if you want more DFS, betting, and fantasy football advice. All those links will be provided down below. Right. The first thing we're going to get into is the stacks before we go to the value plays at each and every position. The first stack we're going to focus in on high scoring environment. If we're looking at the over under in this particular game between Miami and the Detroit Lions, we have an over under set at 51.5. So the game environment is absolutely perfect for a ton of points in this particular game we got right now. And you can go with both sides here. I'm going to lean more towards Tua Tagovailoa over Jared Goff. It's just weapons wise. Miami has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Raheem Mostert is running the ball very well, opening things up for his wide receivers and the tight end. So we're looking at Tua Tagovailoa coming back in his first game. Had a very solid outing. He looked red hot fire in that first quarter. We thought he was going to put up 30, 40 fantasy points. Everything simmered down after that. Steelers had to make adjustments for the way they were attacking the secondary. So I expect another similar performance from Tua Tagovailoa that we saw in the first quarter throughout this whole entire game against Detroit. All right, Detroit is one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So Tua Tagovailoa has a perfect matchup for him at 6,200. I would not shy away from going towards him. Jared Goff is a solid option as well at 5,500 if you want to save a little bit of salary. Poor performance against Dallas. Dallas is a top 5 defense in the league. Miami, they're in the middle. If you're looking at fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, Miami, let me just double check this right now. I know they're giving up yards. Let's see. Miami is 28th. So as you can see, both of these defenses are poor. Detroit Lions is 29th. Miami Dolphins is 28th. It was just that Kenny Pickett was not able to handle the blitz. All right, this is a rookie quarterback. He's not able to handle the blitz. Jared Goff on the other side can handle the blitz. He has enough weapons to get the ball to. I expect a bounce back performance. All right, we see Jared Goff with 5 and 7 fantasy points in the last past 2 games, but we've seen some upside. 37 against Seattle, 26 against Washington. Philly, another tough outing, but did get you double-digit fantasy points there. So Jared Goff, if we're going to see this game really pop off, he's going to need to put some value up as well. But I'm leaning more towards Tua Tagovailoa. All right. Now, for the running backs, my favorite out of the 3, because there's 3 running backs, will be Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert here at 5,900. Now is the workhorse for the Miami Dolphins. All right, he has totally taken over the duties from Chase Edmonds, who was the newly acquired free agent. All right, so as long as Raheem Mostert is healthy, he is a top play here. As you can see, 20 fantasy points in week 7, 22 against the Jets. So you see some very solid upside. We're looking at fantasy points allowed to that running back position. Detroit Lions are dead last across the board. They are hot garbage. See, as you can see right here, Detroit Lions are 31st and 30th against running backs in the red zone. Texans are the worst. So this is a perfect environment to go Raheem Mostert as well. This is a nice stack here. You got Tua pairing with Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert getting catches as well, 4 or 5 for 30 yards in the touchdown we saw last week. That was very, very impressive to see there. On the other side, we got DeAndre Swift. We got Jamal Williams. So in this environment here, there's going to be a split. All right, they're going to limit DeAndre Swift. Let's see if we got another report. He was a full participant in practice. The question is going to be the usage. So he was a top 10 running back earlier in the season. Obviously, he had 2 great games, and then he got injured against Minnesota. So If you want to take a stab at DeAndre Swift, the ceiling is super, super high. The floor is super, super low because this is his first game back from his injury. So definitely have to be mindful of him. If you're going to play him at 6,800, you are playing with dice, okay? Definitely have to make sure of that. Now, Jamal Williams is more of the reliable back here. He's going to get third down work as well. He's been very solid in the absence of DeAndre Swift. I might want to stay away from both of these guys. If I'm choosing a running back, I'm choosing Raheem Mostert, all right? But I definitely do have to mention there's going to be a committee with the Detroit Lions, all right? Flip a coin if you know which one it's going to be, but I do see Swift being limited in his first game back. So we're going to go over to the wide receivers, and this is where the juiciness is. All right, we got Tyreek Hill. We love him there. We got Jalen Waddle, who's a best buddy of Tua Tagovailoa. This is a great stack here. If you want to go 4 Miami Dolphins, if you want to go 3 Miami Dolphins, all right, I have no problem with that. You can take Mostert out and go with some value running backs who we're going to talk about very, very soon. So both of these guys here are outstanding with Tua Tagovailoa back. Even with them out, they still produce. So 7-13 for 72 we saw from Tyreek Hill. And then from Jalen Waddle, we saw some solid upside there as well. 4 for 88, but that was all in the first quarter. So it was a big question mark, a reason why he did not get that ball in the second half. Definitely they're gonna address that in this game. This is a perfect environment for Jalen Waddle to go off. All right. So on the other side of the ball, we're gonna be waiting on news about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Once he's 100%, that's when we're going to see great usage from him. As you can see in the first 2-3 weeks, we saw 12, and 9 targets from him. He looked like an absolute bona fide number 1 wide receiver. So if he's in, we're going with Amon-Ra St. Brown. If we're looking to secondary wide receivers, Josh Reynolds has been outstanding in the absence of Amon-Ra St. Brown. As you can see, he had 15 fantasy points, 21, and 15.6, and 12. So we got 4 in a row double-digit fantasy performances. That's with and without Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, guys, do not worry about this situation here. So, if Amon-Ra is out, then we go with Josh Reynolds. And if Amon-Ra's in, you still can play him as a cheaper flex at that wide receiver position. All right. So, Josh Reynolds is a solid get there as well. So, let's move over to these tight ends. And TJ Hockenson is in a great environment here going up against Miami Dolphins defense. If you're looking at fantasy points allowed to the tight end position, Dolphins are pretty bad. All right, so we're looking at 23rd and 19th overall. They're giving up around 6.7 catches a game. That's a lot of opportunity for someone that's a very dynamic tight end in TJ Hockenson here. This is a great matchup for him. We do see splits with DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown in and out the game. It does affect Hockenson, but this is a game environment that I want to stab in here. And we're talking about a total of over 50 real points. So definitely the ball is going to be spread around. TJ Hockenson has a great opportunity to get some fantasy points. All right. On the other side, we got Mike Gesicki. He's been off and on. First came back with Tua Tagovailoa in week 7. He did see 7 targets, so that was a positive sign from him. Definitely one of the cheaper options at tight end that you can consider if you have $4,000 in salary left. Not one of the main guys I would go to in our lineup builds for week 8. So those are going to be the plays for this game that I love between Miami and Detroit. Let's move on to the next one. The next stack we got, this one is another juicy one. 49 overall total here we got between these Arizona Cardinals going up against the Minnesota Vikings. We got a nice over-under right there, 49 points, all right? So that's what you want. You want these game environments that have high totals, all right? And this is where we're going to attack. So both sides look pretty juicy, all right? We got Kyler Murray, 7,500. The reason why you're paying that kind of a price is you're getting upside with the rushing, all right? He hasn't fully put a total game together since week 4 against Carolina, where we saw 23 fantasy points. Week 2 and week 1, we need something similar. We need 30 fantasy points and plus if we're paying this kind of price. But Minnesota is the perfect environment here. Their defense has been middling. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed to that quarterback position, the Minnesota Vikings are currently They are currently 21st and 17th in the red zone. But the key factor here, look at the yardage. The yardage that they're allowing is very, very alarming, and that's perfect for Kyler Murray. He can connect with his guys there. They're allowing 288 yards a game passing to the quarterback. That's almost 300 yards. Everyone else is 220, 230, 240. That's alarming. So one of these games, a quarterback that's good enough is going to take advantage of that, and that can be Kyler Murray. If we're looking at a game with Kyler Murray with nearly 300 passing yards, that is a perfect environment of what he's going to put on top of that with the rushing. So he's already seeing 5 to 10 carries a game. Most likely has an opportunity to rush the ball in as well. So I'm loving Kyler Murray there. If you want to go with Kirk Cousins, if you like the Minnesota side more, this team is the favorite team. He does have Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and Adam Thielen to go with Irv Smith. A ton of weapons here to attack Arizona defense. Kirk Cousins is in a great position, and you're going to save some salary here at $6,100. But the thing is, you need him to throw 3 to 4 to 5 touchdowns. He has not done that at all this year. He's only gone to 2 touchdowns. You need Kirk Cousins to throw 3 to 4 touchdowns and have 250 to 300 range in the passing department. So we're looking at fantasy points allowed. 2 quarterbacks. Arizona Cardinals are just a tad bit worse. 27th overall and 31st in the red zone. So that's going to be a key factor there. Kirk Cousins getting connected with his receivers. All right. So I like both sides here with Kirk Cousins and Kyler Murray. It's up to you. If you want to save some salary, go to Kirk Cousins. Kyler Murray is a little bit more expensive, but you're paying for the rushing upside. All right. Now, rushing the ball against these Arizona Cardinals, we're looking at fantasy points allowed to running backs. Dalvin Cook is an okay option, right? He's been splitting carries. This is one of the strengths of Arizona Cardinals defense, as you can see right here, 9th overall, only 76 yards total. And don't forget, Cook is splitting carries with Alexander Madison, and they're only allowing 4.3 yards a carry. So I think I want to settle down on Dalvin Cook. I might want to stay towards the pass catchers if we're looking at the Minnesota side. But there's a benefit here on the Arizona side if we're looking at running backs. Eno Benjamin gets his second opportunity of starting a football game here. So we're getting, technically third opportunity. So he let us down against Seattle, came up very, very strong against New Orleans. Now against Minnesota, I think he can pop off yet again. He's going to see a ton of touches. He's going to get all the snaps, splitting a little bit with Keontae Ingram, but this is going to be the workhorse here in Eno Benjamin. Very, very explosive. He works in the pass game very well. We're looking at fantasy points allowed to the running back position. The Minnesota Vikings are 18th overall and 22nd in the red zone, allowing around 83 yards a game, okay? So I have no problem going back to Eno Benjamin. He is a separator, and I like every opportunity I can get to play him when he has the number one role. So at $6,000 flat salary is a perfect stack to go with Kyler Murray, all right? Let's move over to the wide receiver position, and we got the juice here. We got Justin Jefferson, we got Adam Thielen, we got KJ Osborne, all right? So we're gonna talk about each of one of these guys. Justin Jefferson, coming off an okay game. We need Justin Jefferson to go 30 and above if we're playing $9,000 in salary, all right? That is a ton of coin to pay up for, and we need him to produce. Let's look at fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. Is this an absolute smash spot for Justin Jefferson? We're going to look for the Cardinals here, and this is one of the strengths of the Arizona Cardinals. That is against the wide receivers. We saw them against the Saints where they had 3 interceptions in that game. Was it 2 or 3? They went off. But in this particular game here, will they focus their attention on Justin Jefferson? They're going to move Justin Jefferson around a lot in this Los Angeles Rams type of scheme offense that they got with Minnesota. So that's going to be the key factor to see. I don't mind paying up for him. This is elite talent. He's going to get the targets. The question is, will he get in the end zone? He has not gotten the end zone since week 4, and that was a rushing. He hasn't caught a receiving touchdown since week 1. So definitely, if you're looking at prop plays, I would tack that Justin Jefferson TD this week. All right, he has a great opportunity to get one. Adam Thielen has been coming on strong as of late. He's looking like he's not has lost a step. All right, 15 fantasy points against Miami. 15 against New Orleans, 18 against Detroit, now going against Arizona. Remember, Justin Jefferson's going to get all the attention. Adam Thielen flies under the radar, and he's been a touchdown getter for this team for many of years. Nice connection with Kirk Cousins. We saw a touchdown against Miami Dolphins as well. 6,200. I'm fine of paying that price for Adam Thielen. He has upside. If we're looking for a number 3 wide receiver, KJ Osborne fits the bill. He's getting a solid amount of targets. He needs to get in zone to pay off salary, similar to what he did against Detroit. But this is not the perfect secondary to do it against. I most likely will stay towards Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. All right. If I want to attack Arizona another way, I would go towards Irv Smith. Irv Smith is going to be the pass catcher I like, other than Thielen and Justin Jefferson. I want to play in this game. All right. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed to that tight end position, Arizona's pretty bad. Like I said, they're solid against the run, solid against wide receivers. It's the tight end position that they struggle at, and they are dead last, near dead last, 31st and 31st in the red zone. So we could probably most likely see a touchdown coming for Irv Smith at 3,500. He's going to be one of my favorite punt plays at tight end to play in this week 8 game. Okay, now if we're looking at the other side for Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins is the lock. Is the absolute lock. There's no one on that secondary. They got an old Patrick Peterson. They got another shaky corner on the other side. DeAndre Hopkins is a stud. All right, he's coming back. He's gonna go off. So continue to play him. A lot of people on his touchdown prop last week. Go back to the well. All right, you saw a guy with 10 catches, 14 targets, 103 yards. He's going to get a touchdown, and it's most likely going to happen in week 8. So I love the DeAndre Hopkins there. The second option is going to be Rondale Moore. He did not see much run. It was very concerning to see. I thought he would have a better game in this one. This game put up 76 points, but the question here was, it was Arizona being more efficient running the ball, and they just were feeding DeAndre Hopkins. Rondale Moore didn't get much run, but he is the number 2 wide receiver you do want to consider in your lineup builds, all right? Other than that, you expect Robbie Anderson to get more playing time. He could definitely have a big game coming out of nowhere. Definitely watch him. He's a punt play type of guy that you want to look towards in week 8 as well. All right. If we're looking at the tight ends, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is still a target getter. Okay. With Marquise Brown out, I expect Zach Ertz to still be the number 2 option in this offense for Kyler Murray. As you can see, Kyler Murray has a great connection with Ertz already. 37 receptions, 320 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns already. This was just a little bit of bump in the road with a tougher matchup against New Orleans Saints. I think things get back rolling. We're going to see 6 to 7 to 8 targets to Zach Ertz in this game. I have no problem going to him at $5,100 in salary. All right, so definitely stack up on this game. Let's move over to the next. The next stack we got will be the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the New Orleans Saints. If we're looking at the over-under in this game, the total, what do we have here? I believe, I'm just guessing, it's around 45, 46. Hey, we got a 49 here in this game. It's another game environment that you want to attack. Both of these defenses are going to be very, very porous. All right, so let's start off with that quarterback position. Which one I'm going to lean towards a little bit more. Las Vegas has the worst defense, so we can look at Andy Dalton. We saw a real gunslinger here in that game against Arizona. So if we're seeing Kirk Cousins throwing that ball, if Andy Dalton can get you 30 fantasy points, dang sure Kirk Cousins can with his weapons. So that's why I really like Kirk Cousins this week. Andy Dalton coming off a great game, despite the fact he threw for 3 interceptions. So it was just like a Jameis Winston game, and they're sticking with Andy Dalton as the number 1 quarterback here. So I have no problem going back to that going against a very bad defense in the Las Vegas Raiders. All right. On the other side, you can go with Derek Carr as well. Saints have been allowing big gains from wide receivers. And the crucial key here in this game, there is no Marshawn Lattimore. So as long as he's out, it is free reign for the wide receivers for the Las Vegas Raiders. If you don't have Marshawn Lattimore to guard Devontae Adams, this is an absolute horrific scene that's going to happen on that field. So Derek Carr at 5,900 is a great option to play at quarterback if you want to spend up just a little bit right below 6K. Definitely have no problem going with Derek Carr. Looking at the running backs, Josh Jacobs has been a monster. Absolute monster. I gotta take back what I said about him in the preseason. I should have been all over this man, but all the reports were leaning towards a committee. But it doesn't matter. Josh Jacobs said no, it's not, and he's got 3 games in a row of over 140 rushing yards. Not to mention he's getting all the receiver work as well. 5, and 3 receptions in the last 3 games. Hands down has been a complete monster. You can't fade this guy. I don't care about the matchup. The matchup is great as well, so it doesn't matter about that anyway. But Josh Jacobs is a must play. This is a great 1-2 punch that they got for Las Vegas. This is going to allow them to win games. If they can run the ball like this, and they got Devonta Adams going deep, there's no way you can stop this offense, right? On the other side, we got Alvin Kamara. He's been playing way better with Andy Dalton as the quarterback. So the last 3 games with Andy Dalton as quarterback, we got 27 fantasy points, 18 fantasy points, and 17 fantasy points. Dalton unlocks the receiving potential for Alvin Kamara. So we can go towards him at 7,100 because we know Dalton is not shy of checking down that ball and moving on to the next down. And Jameis Winston, on the other hand, he's either going to chuck it or just chuck it. So that's pretty much what Jameis Winston does. Andy Dalton is going to look for a way to get some yards, and he has no problem giving the ball to explosive running back here in Alvin Kamara. So I like him at 7,100 as well. Let's get to these pass catches, all right? So we got a lot of injuries on the side of New Orleans, and these are big questions here. No Mike Thomas, no Jarvis Landry yet again, and we get a game environment where we get Chris Olave. This rookie wide receiver is emerging. Absolutely emerging at $6,000 in salary. Look at the consistency. Every game besides week 1 has been over double-digit fantasy points. That's what you want to see. And with no target competition, then you're looking at Chris Olave as seeing double-digit targets and possibility of getting a touchdown as well. I love Chris Olave as the one of the go-to guys of this New Orleans offense. All right. If we're looking for a second wide receiver, you can go to Tre'Quan Smith here. He's the number 2 wide receiver. Got a little bit of volume there. 5 for 6 for 59 against Arizona. That was a nice performance. And the week before, he got a touchdown. If you're looking past him, Rashid Shaheed is getting lucky, pretty much. He has 2 games back-to-back where he got in the end zone. One was a rush, and one was a 1 deep ball. He has the speed to break away. So that's a super scary flex play. Most likely going to stay away from that. If I wanted a speedster, I would more lean towards Robbie Anderson if I had the choice. But Chris Olave is someone we can trust, and Tre'Quan Smith is someone we can trust on the other side of the Saints. Now, for the pass catchers for the Las Vegas Raiders, we want clarity on Devontae Adams. So wait for news on Sunday. He got a limited practice Friday. He's most likely going to play. So he's a smash button stamp, right? You go Olave, you go Adams, and that's case closed because there's no Marshawn Lattimore to stop Adams. It's going to be a free-for-all for the Las Vegas Raiders, all right? Hunter Renfrow should be working fine in the middle of the field. I like him. He has some upside of giving a lot of cheap catches. If things break down, Hunter Renfrow is a reliable source for Derek Carr. We saw last year. Let things turn around for Hunter Renfrow and Derek Carr this year. I think he has a bounce-back game at $4,900 in salary, and a game that's going to go well over 50 real points, all right? So we covered both of those sides. If you're looking for a third wide receiver, you can consider Matt Collins, but he's currently questionable, all right? But he's been pretty solid all year long, all right? Definitely someone that's surprised as an emerging wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, for the tight end position, we got Darren Waller. He is trending towards being out, I believe so. Listed as questionable. He's been practicing limited, so definitely wait on news, all right? So Darren Waller's in. You can consider him at 5,400. He's been a very up and down all year long. Nothing that you can really trust from him. So Darren Waller is a play this week, but if he's out, then you can feel fine going to Foster Moreau, okay, at 3,100 in salary. That is if Darren Waller is out. Now, on the New Orleans sides, Jawan Johnson was outstanding last week. We saw 2 touchdowns from him on 5 catches, 20 fantasy point game. He's listed as questionable right now, and he was just added to the injury report on Thursday and as a limited participant for the last final day. So he's trending towards playing in this game. All right, so if he's in, then we can go back to the well. He's been coming on as of late, getting more and more touches, and we saw 5 targets against Arizona and 6 targets against Cincinnati. Don't forget, that is because Adam Troutman is still injured. So Juwan Johnson is getting the majority of the work at the tight end position. So definitely watch the news on that tight end group. If Adam Troutman is out, you can go to Juwan Johnson. Okay? And those are going to be the guys we're going to focus in on, all right, for this stack. This is a very, very juicy stack here. 2 of the main key plays there is going to be Olave, Adams, and Josh Jacobs. Okay, those are going to be the main plays. Let's move on to the next stack here. We gotta go a little bit down and dirty. We can't go with all the chalk. One of these sneaky lower games are going to go off, and I've been hitting them pretty lately. So the one that I like this week is going to be Tennessee and Houston. Now, if you're looking at the over-under here, you got them, Tennessee and Houston right there. There's a 40.5 game total. You're like, oh, that's disgusting. No way. But you got to dig deeper. If we're looking at these defenses on both sides of the ball, we know Texans are one of the league worst defenses, especially against running backs. And so are the Tennessee Titans, allowing a lot of yardage. So we're looking here at Tennessee Titans. Overall, 26th in the red zone, 23rd overall. And the Houston Texans are not too far behind. They're 21st, but they're god-awful against the running back. So if you're allowing the league worst against running backs, things are going to be created elsewhere, and then things are going to open up elsewhere, all right? So that's going to be a huge problem, especially if we're talking about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is in a monster spot. If I wanted to choose a 2-touchdown game for a person this week, one of the guys will be Derrick Henry, and he did it against Washington. I would not be surprised if Derrick Henry doesn't do it yet again. And I usually start off with quarterbacks, but this is just a glaring spot that you need to focus in on. He's going to be one of my favorite top-tier running backs this week for Week 8, and that is a huge question mark there. So we're looking at a potentially monster game for Derrick Henry, all right? So let's look at these quarterbacks. Who do we want at that quarterback position, all right? Ryan Tannehill currently questionable. He won't practice Friday and will be listed as questionable. So we could get a high upside opportunity game from Malik Willis. If we get able to get Malik Willis in his first game, we're talking about what could be some very explosive type of opportunity. Yes, it's his first game. This is a bad defense in the Houston Texans, and Malik Wilson has upside rushing the ball. So not only is Derrick Henry going to be opening up big holes, we got Malik Willis that's going to be able to create things and go off script with the offense on the Tennessee Titans. So definitely wait on news for the quarterback position for the Tennessee Titans. All right, definitely wait on news. That could be very, very exciting. But someone we can consider this week is going to be Davis Mills. Davis Mills is in a perfect spot here at that quarterback position. We're looking at fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. The Tennessee Titans are currently 26th overall and 21st in the red zone. Let's look at some history with Davis Mills. Davis Mills is the same guy in this game. This game last year put up 53 points. Absolutely excited to see. And what did Davis Mills do? Davis Mills came through with 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Not only that, he chipped in with 12 rushing yards as well. So there's some high upside opportunity here with Davis Mills going up against the Tennessee Titans. I love him in this game. All right. If we're looking at the other side, running back, Dameon Pierce has been a workhorse. All right. This is going to be one of their main guys. He's going to get 20 plus touches a game. We saw it in Week 5. We saw it in Week 7 as well. We saw it in Week 4. Every week he's getting 20 plus touches. Dameon Pierce is going to be someone that you get in a mid-range, 6,300. Nice salary. Right there, he's going to get you double-digit fantasy points. Question is, can he get in the end zone? I think he can against the Tennessee Titans. I like the explosive players we got in this game, all right? It's going to get ugly with the wide receivers. I'm going to tell you that right now. On the Houston side, all right, if we want to pair wide receivers with Davis Mills, it's going to be, we're going to have to wait on news because we got Brandon Cooks here at 5,900. He's listed questionable. He practiced all week long, but with trade talks going on, they might save Brandon Cooks and put him to the side. So definitely wait on news about Brandon Cooks. Next, Nico Collins, the number 2 wide receiver. He's currently highly questionable. Did not practice all week long. he's most likely not going to play. So who are going to be the guys for Houston that we're going to key in on? All right, now we got two guys. We got Chris Moore here, who's more of the field stretcher. He's going to average 10 yards plus on his catches. Someone that's going to be more reliable for Davis Mills will be Philip Dorsett. This is going to be the punt play of the week. This is the sleeper player of the week here, Philip Dorsett. I say he goes over 20 fantasy points this week. He's going to get a ton of usage if Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks are out. Philip Dorsett is a very sneaky play this week in week 8. Definitely a punt play that can win somebody $1 million. So definitely put him in your back pocket. So I love Philip Dorsett this week. All right, next, who do we have on the other side? For Tennessee, we got Robert Woods. He has emerged as the number 1 wide receiver for this team because Treylon Burks is currently injured. He's been getting the most consistent targets as well for this team, so we have no problem going to him. There is upside in this game. It was some ugly games against Indiana. We saw a little bit of better performance from Washington and Indiana in week 4 as well, and against Las Vegas. So we're hoping for at least double-digit fantasy points from Woods. If he gets in the end zone, it's going to be icing on the cake, all right? Now, the other wide receiver that we're going to look at in this offense will be Westbrook Ikine, all right? He's this number 2 wide receiver in this offense. We saw a good game from him against Washington and a decent game from him against Las Vegas. So this team, like I said, doesn't throw the ball much. And if it's going to be Malik Willis, it's going to be more running and more usage of the tight ends, all right? It's a team that runs 2 tight end sets at a very high clip. So then we can look at these guys. We got Jeff Swain and we got Austin Hooper. If I wanted to choose one out of the two, I'm going to lean towards Austin Hooper. This could be his game where he's going to get in the end zone. I like him as a punt play tight end option at 2,800, all right? On the other side, it's very crowded on the Houston side for tight end. Good luck trying to choose between these 3 tight ends. I would stay away from these options, all right? All the other juiciness here is going to be Mills, Henry, Pierce, Dorsett, Moore, Woods, Hooper. Stick towards those guys. It's a very highly potentially sneaky stack, right? Definitely keep this in mind. Might want to sprinkle a little bit on that. Let's move on to the next. The next stack we're going to look into is another ugly one. And this total is even worse. It's at 39.5. But this Washington Commanders Indianapolis Colts game is speaking to me. Why is it speaking to me? Because I see upside. There's a ton of talent on this field, and we got guys that can unlock it, all right? The best news that we got all week is that Matt Ryan is no longer the quarterback of this offense. They choose Sam Ehlinger because they see his off-schedule throws and his ability to run in the backfield and run for yards as something that can open up things for this offense. So they're saying that they expect more points here. So Sam Ehlinger, we've seen it in the preseason, all right? He had 2 games already, 2 touchdowns in the preseason. He had a 45-yard rushing TD. This man has been putting up beautiful performance in the preseason. We get to see him for the first opportunity in a regular season game against the Washington Commanders. And the reason why I like this is because the Commanders are absolutely garbage at defense. So if we're looking at fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position, the Washington Commanders are 22nd overall and 18th in the red zone, all right? So if I'm looking at a game with someone, a rookie quarterback coming in, he has upsides to do off-schedule things. Sam Ehlinger, I feel not confident, but this is a risky play, guys. Just know it's a very risky play. This is $4,000 in salary, but if he gives you 15, 16, maybe even 20, if he gives you 20 fantasy points at $4,000 in salary, you are setting yourself in perfect position, and you can spend that up at other spots, all right? And with the weapons around him, with his offensive line, I think this is a great environment for Sam Ehlinger, all right? So I love him at $4,000 in salary. If you're looking at the other side, Taylor Heineke is another wild card here, but he has potential to put up tons of fantasy points, all right? He's going to create off-schedule throws as well. He's not going to give up on a play. Despite the fact going up against a very, very good Green Bay defense, he was able to put 15 fantasy points up in that game. So I expect Taylor Heineke to have another solid performance in this one. And I expect this over to happen as well. This 39.5, I do not like that. Over under, I think it goes over 39.5. I think both of these guys will create and put up points. This is why I like this game. We got two rushing and two creators at the quarterback position here in Taylor Heineke and Sam Ehlinger. If we're looking at the running back position, we got Jonathan Taylor finally getting an opportunity at JT being healthy. He was solid last week in the receiving department and in the rushing department. If they would have ran the ball more, maybe they would have won the game. He was averaging over 5 yards a carry. So I don't know why they stopped running the football, but they were definitely utilizing him in the receiving game. Jonathan Taylor, $8,000 in salary. He's another great option at that top tier running back position. All right. Now, on the Washington side, we got Brian Robinson. He's going to be more of the rusher. He's not going to see much third down work, and he's going to be very inefficient. He needs to get you a touchdown to pay off. I do not like Brian Robinson. Yet again, I do not like Brian Robinson. All right. That's Tyler Algier. Okay. Brian Robinson's nothing special. All right. You know who's special? Antonio freaking Gibson. Stop putting dirt on this man's name, man. He has not fumbled the ball all year long. And this man is more explosive. 5.9 yards a carry, 7 yards a carry. This man is putting up great receiving work as well. He's a dual threat, very dynamic running back. And just because Brian Robinson is a story doesn't mean he deserves more touches than Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is by far better than Brian Robinson, as you can see. And especially in that Chicago game, the reason why they started popping off runs is because they gave it to Gibson and he was going for 6 to 7 yards a carry. That opened up the game for Washington to win that game in week 6. And then we saw him in week 7. He got in the end zone. They should know that the more talented guy is Antonio Gibson. Let's be 100% honest, all right? So I like him as a running back option at 5,400. Now, wide receiver-wise, we're going to go to this is going to be, we're not going to wait and see. We're going to play Michael Pittman. He's the number 1 wide receiver, but it is going to be interesting to see who's the favorite wide receiver in this offense for Sam Ehlinger. I think it's going to be Pittman and Pierce, and you can stay away from Paris Campbell, right? Matt Ryan was forced in situations where he was just checking down the ball, and he didn't let the play develop, and pressure was coming. He would just dump the ball off to the closest wide receiver, similar to what Ben Roethlisberger did to the Pittsburgh Steelers in that offense. This is what happens with aging quarterbacks, okay? They just throw it to the short yardage wide receiver, and that's the play, all right? Michael Pittman should have some upside in this game at 7,200. I know people are going to be scared of that price because it's a rookie quarterback, but I'm not going to shy away from the talent, all right? And number 2 option on the options will be Alec Pierce. That's how far I would want to go with the wide receivers in this game to see how Sam Ehlinger operates this offense, all right? On the other side of the ball, we got Terry McLaurin, who's still operating outside. There's no Jahan Dotson. So there's going to be a 2-man game here at the wide receiver position, all right? So it's very positive to see Terry McLaurin get in the end zone. He's finally waking up. He's been very up and down all year long at $6,000 in salary. He's in a great environment to have a good game. And number 2 is going to be Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is everything for this offense. He's going to catch. He's the wide receiver, and he's going to run. They're doing gadget plays with him. They try to get him screens. Any way possible Ron Rivera can get Curtis Samuel the ball, he's going to do it. This is their Debo Samuel, all right? So Curtis Samuel is definitely someone we can put in our lineups at 5,300. We're talking about a guy that's going to touch the ball near 15 times, all right? You got to take advantage of that. With his explosiveness, if he get in the end zone, we're talking about a potentially huge day for Curtis Samuel. This is why I like this game stack. There's a lot of guys that have huge upside, but there's question marks from the quarterback position where people will stay away from. But we are not scared of that, okay? Now, at the tight ends, this is a little bit more ugly. I want to stay with the guys I already mentioned, tight ends. I don't like none of these guys, okay? So Logan Thomas is going to be a question mark, but he's the more consistent option at the tight end position for the Washington Commanders, but he continues to have injury problems with his calf. So you might want to stay away from that. And then Indianapolis, they use 3 tight ends. So we're going to stay away from the tight ends in this game. We're going to focus in on the running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks in this game as a very sneaky, potentially game for week 8, all right? So let's move on to the value play. All right, guys, let's finish this out strong. Let's go to the value plays. Other than the stats that I like for this particular slate for week 8. We're going to start off with the quarterbacks. And the first guy we're going to talk about will be Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones at $5,700 in salary. He has upside here, but this is an ugly environment going to be in Seattle that has played very solidly. But the key here is the Konami Code quarterback. Brian Daboll is a mastermind at working with rushing quarterbacks here. And we got Daniel Jones in a game environment where he's coming off a game where he had 11 rushes, 107 yards, and a TD against Jacksonville. That's what they're going to utilize in this game against Seattle, all right, to help go with the passing game, all right? They got Wan'Dale Robinson that's emerging. Unfortunately, David Bellinger went down at the tight end position, but Daniel Jones is going to provide upside with the rushing ability. You can never fade that. That's why you can always start him and have potential to get 20 plus fantasy points because he can do things with his legs, all right? You always want a rushing quarterback. You always want a rushing quarterback, okay? Next guy we're going to look towards to similar mindset here is Justin Fields. Justin Fields in a bad game environment against New England. What did he do? He ran 14 times, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Luke Getsy is finally understanding that he needs to use the legs of Justin Fields. And that's just going to open things up for the passing game, where we saw 21 passing attempts. We saw 179 yards from Justin Fields. That's a positive sign. Against Dallas, it's going to be a tough matchup, but if he's doing things and creating on his legs, we can expect Justin Fields to put up a solid fantasy performance, especially in a game where we see Dallas going up big. They're going to force Justin Fields to create with his arm and his legs, and that equals fantasy points. So I love him at 5,200. Let's move on to the running backs. We got some solid guys here at value in number 1 roles. Number 1 will be Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is the number 1 running back now for Dallas, with Zeke Elliott injured, all right? And this is a great game environment for him. If we're looking at 25th ranked run defense here in Chicago, and Tony Pollard is the more explosive back. As you can see, efficiency, very, very efficient, all right? 6.9 yards to carry, week 7, 10.8 against the Rams, 8.1 against the Giants, who have a solid defense, 4.8 against Cincinnati, all right? He's going to get rushing attempts, and he's going to see receiving work as well. So expect screens, expect counters, expect tosses. Tony Pollard is going to be in a very good opportunity here. I expect 15 towards 20 upwards in fantasy points for Tony Pollard in this game going against Chicago Bears, all right? The next running back we're going to look at is Donta Foreman. He's one of my favorite plays here at 5,300. Donta Foreman might explode, all right? He's going to be one of my locks at the running back position, okay? We've seen it last year against the Bengals in that playoff game. Who was rushing that football? Who had over 100 yards? Donta Foreman in that game, all right? Not clunky Derrick Henry. It was Donta Foreman. Now Donta Foreman is getting an opportunity to be a number 1 running back. What did he do against Tampa Bay? 7.9 yards a carry. All right? Super, super explosive. Busted a 60-yard run as well. He's looking like the better running back, better than Chuba Hubbard. And Chuba Hubbard is out this week. This is why we're going to go back to the well, and we're going with Donta Foreman. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed to that running back position, the Atlanta Falcons are currently, where are they at? They are 10th overall, but we're going with opportunity. You can't go with that because Tampa Bay is 7th, and they look absolutely putrid, all right? So, as of right now, we've seen what Atlanta has given up the past few weeks as things have turned around and they've been struggling. I have no problem going with Donta Foreman in this game at 5,300. Seeing what he did against Tampa Bay and this improvement on the offensive line for the Carolina Panthers, I love Donta Foreman in week 8. All right, let's go to the wide receivers. The first one we're going to talk about is Brandon Ayuk. We have a key injury in Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk has back-to-back games with 11 targets. All right, we had 28 fantasy points here against Atlanta, and we have 15 fantasy points against Kansas City, where he had 11 targets, 82 yards, 7 receptions. So 7 and 8 in the past 2 weeks. I told you these guys that Brandon Ayuk was an absolute smash in fantasy football drafts, and he is emerging as the number 1 wide receiver. I told you to stay away from Deebo Samuel, and you should have stayed away from him. Brandon Ayuk is emerging, all right? Nice connection here with Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, they do have Christian McCaffrey as well. But at the wide receiver department, the number one is Brandon Ayuk. All right. Elijah Moore is the next guy we're going to talk about at the wide receiver position. You got to feed the man that's been complaining here. You gotta oil the tires, as they say. All right. You got to grease the wheel. All right. Well, whatever analogy you want to use, Elijah Moore is going to get targets in this game. All right. He obviously did not play in this previous game because he was benched for creating a havoc. But Elijah Moore is back, and with the injury to Corey Davis, he emerges as the 1A, 1B in that New York Jets offense between him and Garrett Wilson. So at 4,700, someone that's been complaining about getting the ball, is a perfect opportunity for him to get that ball. And I love Elijah Moore at 4,700. He has a ton of upside, ton of explosiveness. Do not shy away. All right. Next guy we're going to go to is Wan'Dale Robinson. All right. The best friend of Daniel Jones here is going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. We saw him in limited action in week 6, get a touchdown. Then in full game environment, he got double-digit fantasy points against Jacksonville. Now going to be against Seattle. He's going to be working in the slot, going to be avoiding their top-tier corner that they got in the draft as a rookie. Wan'Dale Robinson should be fine getting 5 to 6 to 7 catches. He needs to get an end zone to pay off his salary. But at 4,700 is another guy we can go to below 5K. All right. And then another guy in this game is going to be Marquise Goodwin. All right. If DK Metcalf is out, which is trending towards that, Marquise Goodwin is looking like the number 2 wide receiver in this offense for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, they had Tyler Lockett. He's been a smash play. Geno Smith has looked like an MVP. And Marquise Goodwin is now emerged as the number 2 wide receiver. And as long as he's healthy, this man is and has Olympic speed. All right. This is the reason why he's still in the NFL, because he has that speed, has nice size. He had 2 touchdowns last week, so that provides an opportunity for him to get some usage, and I like him at 4,400. All right, so let's move on to the tight ends before we head out, guys. And the two guys we're going to talk about will be Noah Fant on this team as well for Seattle, because this is one of the weaknesses for the Giants, is that tight end position. They do have Will Dissly, but the guy that's been more consistent all year long, the one that's more explosive, is Noah Fant. All right. So Noah Fant already has 1 touchdown this year. I expect him to have a decent game and outperform Will Dissly against the New York Giants. So if you're looking for a punt play, you can go towards Noah Fant. All right. Number 2 play will be someone that's been pretty consistent all year, but had a poor performance last week, and that's going to be Tyler Higbee. Other than the game against Carolina, right, which was a poor performance, he's been solid all year long. We're talking about 10 targets against Dallas, 14 against San Francisco, double-digit fantasy points in week 2 and week 3. So I expect Tyler Higbee to get things back written correctly, and hopefully get an end zone. He has not had a touchdown yet this year. Going to be against San Francisco. I expect him to have a solid performance in this one. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and Twitter at MessengerJustD, and I'll be back with another video very soon. All right. Peace out, guys.